John Miller couldn't sleep that night. The strange blue light from the house next door kept flashing through his window. It had been empty for months, but yesterday, a moving truck finally showed up. The new neighbor moved in during the afternoon, but something felt different about her. He walked to his window and looked out. The light wasn't normal. It wasn't like TV or computer screen light. It was brighter, almost electric blue, and it moved in patterns he had never seen before. John rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was just tired. The next morning, while John was getting his mail, he saw her for the first time. She looked like a normal woman in her early 30s, with long black hair and pale skin. She was wearing regular clothes, jeans, and a blue sweater. But there was something odd about the way she walked, almost too perfect, like she had practiced each step. "Good morning," she called out to John. "I'm Sarah, your new neighbor." Her voice was clear, maybe too clear, like she was reading from a script. "Welcome to the neighborhood," John replied with a smile. "I'm John. How are you liking it here so far?" Sarah paused for exactly 3 seconds before answering. "The neighborhood meets all required standards for human habitation." She stopped, then quickly added, "I mean, it's very nice here." John noticed she was holding her phone upside down, pretending to read something. When she saw him looking, she quickly put it in her pocket. Later that day, John was working in his garden when he heard strange clicking sounds coming from Sarah's backyard. It wasn't like any animal he knew. When he looked over the fence, he saw Sarah standing completely still, her head tilted up to the sky. The clicking stopped as soon as she noticed him. "Oh, hello again," she said. "I was just practicing bird calls. It's a new hobby." But John had never heard any bird that sounded like that. A few days passed, and John noticed more strange things. Sarah's trash can never had any food waste in it. He never saw her eat or drink anything. Her car never moved from the driveway. But sometimes he heard weird humming sounds at night, like machinery running. The weirdest thing was how she washed people. At the local store, John saw her studying a family having lunch. She was writing notes in a small book, recording every bite they took. When someone waved at her, she would wave back exactly the same way, like she was copying them. As Thanksgiving got closer, John saw Sarah watching cooking shows through her window. She had 5 TVs all playing different Thanksgiving videos at the same time. Sometimes she would practice the movements she saw on TV, like cutting an invisible turkey or passing invisible dishes. One evening, John saw Sarah sitting alone on her porch. She was looking at all the houses with their Thanksgiving decorations, and for a moment, she looked sad. John remembered his first Thanksgiving alone after moving to the city. Nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving, he thought, even if they were a bit strange. He walked over to her house. Sarah quickly hid something that was glowing blue under her chair. "Hi, Sarah," John said. "I was wondering if you'd like to join me for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm having a few friends over, and you're welcome to join us." Sarah's eyes lit up. Literally. For just a second, John could swear they glowed with the same blue light he'd seen that first night. But when he looked again, they were normal. A traditional Thanksgiving celebration with actual humans. Sarah said, then cleared her throat. "I mean, yes, I would love to join you. Should I bring something? I have been studying Earth. I mean, American food preparation." "Sure, bring whatever you'd like," John said, trying to ignore how she'd said actual humans. As he walked back home, John heard that clicking sound again, and what sounded like a quiet conversation in a language he'd never heard before. When he turned around, Sarah was talking into what looked like a glowing blue crystal. She quickly hid it and waved at him, copying the exact way he had waved at her earlier. John waved back and hurried inside. As he looked out his window one last time, he saw those blue lights starting up again in Sarah's house. What had he just gotten himself into by inviting her for Thanksgiving? The week before Thanksgiving, John noticed even stranger things happening at Sarah's house. Every night at exactly 3:33 am, A black delivery truck with no company name would park outside. The weird part, the truck made no sound, not even when it drove away. One night, John watched through his window as two tall figures in dark suits unloaded large metal containers from the truck. They moved too smoothly, like robots. Sarah stood in her doorway, making those clicking sounds again. The figures responded with similar clicks, and their heads turned all the way around, a full 360 degrees, before they left. During the day, Sarah started asking everyone in the neighborhood about Thanksgiving traditions, but her questions were odd. At what exact temperature do human bodies feel most comfortable while consuming turkey? She asked Mrs. Peterson from across the street. How many units of happiness does your family produce during the meal? She asked the kids playing in the park. John found himself watching her more closely. One morning, while Sarah was jogging, running at exactly the same speed without getting tired or sweating, he checked her trash cans. Inside, he found 3 empty bottles labeled Human Scent. Extra Normal. A manual titled Understanding Earth Facial Expressions version 8.7. Something that looked like a broken antenna with blue crystals. A half-eaten dictionary, actually chewed up with bite marks. When Sarah caught him looking, she ran over at impossible speed. Those are props for a Halloween party. Halloween was last month, John said. Sarah stared blankly for 4.2 seconds before responding. I am what you call a theater person. Method acting. Very method. Much acting. That evening, John got a weird text from Sarah. QUERI. Traditional Thanksgiving requirements. Seeking PERLISSION to bring nutrient CUBERR. I mean, can I bring my family's special casserole? Before he could reply, John saw Sarah in her backyard, doing something even stranger. She had set up what looked like a tiny laboratory. There were bubbling beakers filled with glowing blue liquid, and she was scanning different Thanksgiving foods with a humming device. She picked up a turkey with one hand, a whole turkey, and scanned it while muttering, "Earth poultry, inefficient energy source, but humans attach emotional significance. Must replicate exactly." Through her kitchen window, John watched as Sarah practiced Thanksgiving dinner with mannequins seated around her table. She would serve them empty plates and mimic conversation, occasionally stopping to adjust her face in a mirror and practice smiling. Sometimes her reflection didn't move when she did. The day before Thanksgiving, a final delivery arrived. The strange truck brought a large glass container that pulsed with blue light. Sarah struggled to carry it inside, not because it was heavy, but because it kept floating up. Later that night, John heard Sarah's voice from her backyard. Mission update. Earth celebration infiltration proceeding according to plan. The human John suspects nothing. Tomorrow, during their Thanksgiving, we will. Wait, is that human watching? John quickly ducked behind his curtains. When he peeked out again, Sarah was staring directly at his window. Her eyes glowed blue, and for a moment, her whole body flickered like a bad TV signal. She raised her hand to wave at him, then stopped mid-wave as a loud, deep hum filled the air. The sound made all the lights in the neighborhood flicker. Sarah looked up at the sky with an expression of worry. Or was it fear? John's phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah. Looking forward to tomorrow. Followed immediately by ERROR. XAS smile soigam duals. Correction. Looking forward to tomorrow. As John lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, he heard Sarah's voice again, but different this time. More mechanical, more alien. Final preparations complete. The humans will never suspect that their Thanksgiving dinner is actually going to be. The voice cut off suddenly. In the silence that followed, John wondered what exactly he had gotten himself into by inviting Sarah for dinner, whatever she was planning. Tomorrow would be a Thanksgiving no one would ever forget. Thanksgiving Day arrived, and John's house was filled with the smell of roasting turkey and pumpkin pie. His friends Mark and Lisa had come early to help with cooking. At exactly 5:00 p.m., the doorbell rang with perfect musical precision, a bit too perfect. Sarah stood there wearing what looked like a formal business suit made of material that seemed to shift colors slightly when she moved. In her hands was a large covered dish that hummed softly and occasionally made bubbling sounds. "I have arrived exactly on time with my traditional family recipe," Sarah announced, her voice switching between high and low pitch. "It is called—" She paused, her eyes quickly scanning a small device on her wrist. Grandma's special surprise. The dish she carried was floating slightly above her hands. When Mark noticed, Sarah quickly pressed it down and laughed. "Anti-gravity. I mean, new cooking technology. Very expensive. From Japan." As they sat down for dinner, everyone noticed strange things about Sarah. She had positioned her chair exactly 2.5 feet from the table. Her plate and utensils were arranged in perfect geometric patterns. She kept checking a glowing blue device under the table that looked like a cross between a phone and a crystal. Every time someone took a bite of food, she would quickly write something in a notebook labeled Human Consumption Patterns version 3.4. "Would anyone like to try my dish?" Sarah asked, removing the cover. Inside was something that looked like blue jello, but moved on its own. It formed shapes. First a turkey, then a pumpkin, then what looked suspiciously like a spinning UFO before Sarah quickly stirred it. "It's a family secret recipe," she explained, "made with ingredients from very far away." John noticed that Sarah wasn't eating anything. When Lisa asked her about it, Sarah picked up her fork and pretended to eat, making exaggerated sounds while the food disappeared without her mouth ever opening. Halfway through dinner, something even stranger happened. Sarah's watch started beeping in a pattern that sounded like Morse code. Her eyes widened with what looked like panic. "Oh no," she whispered. "They're early." "Who's early?" John asked. "The other dinner guests," Sarah said, but she was staring at the sky through the window. Suddenly, all the lights in the house started flickering. Sarah's family dish began glowing brighter, and the blue jello-like substance started forming complex geometric patterns while emitting a soft hum. Sarah stood up abruptly. "I must check on something." She walked to the window, her movements now more rigid, mechanical. She pressed her hand against the glass, and for a moment, her skin seemed to become transparent, revealing circuitry underneath. That's when her phone rang. But instead of a regular ringtone, it made that alien clicking sound John had heard before. Sarah answered it, forgetting she had an audience. "Yes, Commander," she spoke in clicks and beeps. "The humans are consuming their ritual feast as expected. Energy readings are." She turned and saw everyone staring at her. Oh dear." The room fell silent. Sarah's form flickered like a bad TV signal again. Her perfect human appearance seemed to glitch, revealing glimpses of something else underneath, something definitely not human. "I can explain," Sarah said, her voice now having a metallic echo. "You see, I'm not exactly from around here." "Yeah, we figured that out," John said. "But the real question is, what's the actual purpose of all this?" Before Sarah could answer, a deep rumbling sound came from above the house. Everyone ran to the windows. In the dark evening sky, strange lights were appearing, dozens of them, all moving in perfect formation. Sarah's family dish started floating off the table, the blue substance now swirling like a miniature galaxy. "I'm sorry," she said, "but this Thanksgiving dinner isn't exactly what you think it is." "It's actually." The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Sarah's eyes glowed bright blue, and her voice changed to something completely inhuman. "Phase 1 of the observation is complete. Beginning Phase 2. Through the window, more lights began descending from the sky, getting closer and closer to John's house. This Thanksgiving dinner was about to become something no one could have expected. As the lights in the sky grew closer, Sarah's human appearance completely dissolved. Where once stood a woman in a business suit, now floated a tall, crystalline being with patterns of blue light flowing through her transparent form. The dinner guests froze in shock. "I suppose proper introductions are in order." Sarah's voice chimed like wind through crystal. "I am Research Agent S-417 from the Galactic Cultural Preservation Society. But you can still call me Sarah. My translator picked that name because it sounds similar to my real name in your language, which would shatter all your windows if I pronounced it." John found his voice first. Cultural Preservation Society. Sarah's form shifted colors as she explained, creating holographic images in the air. "Your Earth holidays, especially Thanksgiving, produce something extraordinary that we've never seen on any other planet. When humans gather to celebrate and share gratitude, you generate an energy signature that's visible from space." She waved her crystalline hand, and suddenly the dining room walls became transparent, showing swirling patterns of golden light surrounding each person at the table. "See those golden patterns? That's emotional energy. Earth is the only planet we found where beings can produce it naturally. My people." Sarah's lights dimmed slightly. "We lost the ability to feel emotions eons ago, when we transferred our consciousness into crystalline forms to survive our dying sun." Mark, who had been quietly recording everything on his phone, spoke up. "So all those weird things in your house, the deliveries, the lab equipment." "Research tools," Sarah nodded, her head creating a small rainbow effect. "The strange trucks were quantum-shifted vessels bringing equipment to measure emotional wavelengths. The lab was analyzing how human foods catalyze emotional responses. Even my family dish is actually a sophisticated energy collector." The blue substance in Sarah's dish had now formed into a miniature replica of the Milky Way galaxy, spinning slowly above the table. "But there's more," Sarah continued, now looking worried. Her crystalline form pulsed with darker blue hues. "My research discovered something unprecedented. When humans celebrate Thanksgiving, the emotional energy you produce creates a kind of protective barrier around Earth, a shield made of pure gratitude and joy." Suddenly, Sarah's communication crystal started flashing red. The lights in the sky were getting closer, and they didn't look friendly anymore. These weren't the smooth scientific vessels Sarah had been using. These were angular, aggressive-looking crafts with pulsing red cores. "Oh no," Sarah's voice crackled with static. "They followed me. The harvesters." "The who?" Lisa asked, still filming everything on her phone. Sarah's form shimmered with anxiety. "Remember I said we lost our emotions? Well, some of my people discovered they could temporarily feel again by harvesting emotional energy from other species. They'd stripped hundreds of worlds of all feeling, leaving the inhabitants empty shells." The house began to shake as the red chips descended. Sarah quickly touched each dinner guest's forehead with a crystalline finger, transferring information directly into their minds. "I came here to study Thanksgiving because I hope to find a way to help my people regain emotions naturally, through celebration and gratitude rather than theft. But the harvesters must have tracked my research. They're here to drain Earth of all its emotional energy, starting with Thanksgiving, when emotions are strongest." Outside, the red ships began forming a massive array above the neighborhood. Sarah's family dish suddenly transformed into a complex control panel. "We have exactly 17 Earth minutes before they begin harvesting," Sarah announced, her crystal form now glowing with determination. "But I have a plan. Your Thanksgiving dinner isn't ruined. It's about to become the most important meal in Earth's history." She turned to John, her blue lights pulsing urgently. "You invited me to dinner because you didn't want anyone to be alone on Thanksgiving. That simple act of kindness might just save your planet. But I'll need all of you to help. We need to create the most powerful surge of Thanksgiving energy this world has ever seen." "How exactly do we do that?" John asked, watching as more red ships appeared in the sky. Sarah's crystalline form began to reconfigure itself into something new. "First, We need to modify this turkey. Sarah's crystalline hands moved rapidly over the turkey, transforming it into something extraordinary. The roasted bird began to glow with a combination of gold and blue energy, floating slightly above its plate. Quick basics, Sarah chimed as she worked. Thanksgiving foods already naturally conduct emotional energy. That's why you feel so good eating them. But with some quantum modifications, she touched the turkey with a crystal finger, and suddenly everyone could see waves of colored light flowing through all the food on the table. The cranberry sauce was now pulsing with red waves of family love, the stuffing glowed orange with memories of childhood, and the pumpkin pie sparkled with golden threads of gratitude. Even the mashed potatoes swirled with warm purple light of comfort and home. But before Sarah could explain more, the air crackled with red electricity. 3 tall figures materialized in the dining room. They looked similar to Sarah's crystalline form, but their bodies were sharp and angular, with cores of angry red light. Research Agent S-417, the tallest harvester, spoke, its voice sounding like breaking glass. You have violated protocol by revealing yourself to the natives. Your research license is revoked. Sarah stood protectively in front of the humans. Commander Z, these people deserve to know the truth. Their emotional energy isn't just a resource to be harvested. It's a gift that could save our entire species. The commander's red core flashed dangerously. Emotions made our species weak. Harvesting them from lesser beings keeps us strong. And Earth, it turned to examine the food on the table. Earth is the richest emotional source we've ever found. Suddenly, John's cat, Mr. Whiskers, jumped onto the table and spoke in perfect English. Then you really don't want to make us angry. Everyone stared at the cat in shock. Oh yes, Mr. Whiskers continued, calmly licking his paw. You didn't think Sarah was the only alien observer on Earth, did you? I've been monitoring this planet for the Feline Galactic Alliance for 12 years. Cats were assigned to protect Earth's emotional energy centuries ago. The cat's eyes began to glow with green light, and more cats started appearing at all the windows, their eyes glowing in different colors. Sarah's blue lights pulsed with surprise. The FGA, the Harvester Commander, took a step back. The treaty forbids us from harvesting protected worlds. Mr. Whiskers stood, his tail high. Earth has been under our protection since the ancient Egyptians. Why do you think cats were worshipped? We're not just pets, we're guardians. But the commander's red core only pulsed brighter. Treaties mean nothing compared to the power we could gain here. Initialize the harvest. The red ships above began charging their energy beams. The very air seemed to vibrate as they prepared to drain Earth's emotional energy. That's when Sarah's modified turkey suddenly rose higher, its golden energy field expanding. No, Sarah said firmly. You don't understand what Earth emotions truly are. Let me show you. She quickly pressed her crystal hands against the commander's form, sharing memories. John inviting her to dinner despite his suspicions. Children playing in parks with pure joy. Old couples still holding hands after decades. People helping strangers in need. Families reuniting at airports. And countless Thanksgiving dinners filled with love and gratitude. The commander's red core flickered, showing hints of blue. These feelings, they're so strong. That's why harvesting them would be wrong, Sarah explained. Earth emotions aren't meant to be taken. They're meant to be shared. Watch. She turned to the modified turkey and began typing on her control panel. The turkey started spinning, releasing waves of golden light that wrapped around everyone, humans, cats, and crystals alike. But just as hope seemed possible, warning sirens blared from above. More harvester ships were appearing, hundreds of them, darkening the sky. Mr. Whiskers' eyes narrowed. Well, this just got more interesting. Sarah, I hope you have a backup plan, because we're going to need every bit of emotional energy this dinner can generate. I do, Sarah said, her crystal form reconfiguring again. But it's either going to save Earth, or make things much, Much worse. John, she turned to him urgently. Remember how you said your grandmother's secret ingredient was love? Well, we're about to test that theory on a galactic scale. The swarm of harvester ships filled the sky, their red energy beams beginning to pierce through the atmosphere. Inside John's house, Sarah's modified turkey was now floating at the center of a complex web of golden energy streams, connecting to every dish on the table. Your grandmother's recipe, Sarah explained rapidly to John, while her crystal hands danced over her control panel. It wasn't just love. It was generations of emotional energy, stored in the memory of how to make it. Every time someone cooks with a family recipe, they're not just making food. They're channeling emotional energy from all the times it was made before. Mr. Whiskers jumped onto Sarah's shoulder, his green eyes glowing brighter. She's right. Why do you think cats always watch humans cook? We're not begging. We're monitoring the emotional energy output. Suddenly, the walls of the house became transparent again, but this time they could see golden threads connecting to every house in the neighborhood. No, the entire city. Every place where families were sharing Thanksgiving dinner glowed with warm light. Look, Lisa pointed outside. All the neighborhood cats were sitting in a perfect circle around the house, their eyes glowing in rainbow colors. More cats were arriving every second, streaming in from every street. The Harvester Commander's red core pulsed with alarm. This is impossible. The feline network hasn't been activated in thousands of years. Actually, Mr. Whiskers purred, we've been building this network since the first cat decided to live with humans. Every purr, every nap on a lap, every time we need your blankets, we're not just being cute, we're weaving a planetary protection grid. Sarah's crystal form suddenly lit up with understanding. Of course, that's why Earth holidays generate so much energy. The cats have been amplifying it all along. But the harvesters weren't backing down. Their ships began charging even more powerful beams. The commander's voice rang out. Even your combined power can't stop us from taking what we want. That's when something completely unexpected happened. From every house in the neighborhood, grandmothers began emerging. They walked calmly out their front doors, each carrying their own Thanksgiving dishes, all glowing with decades of love and memories. The Grandmother Network, Mr. Whiskers said with awe. The final defense system. The grandmothers formed a circle, mirroring the cats. Each one placed their dish on the ground, and the golden energy streams began connecting them all together. Sarah quickly explained, every grandmother's recipe book is actually a power cell of stored emotional energy. When they share recipes, they're not just passing down cooking instructions, they're passing down pure love energy. Inside the house, John's grandmother's turkey recipe card began to glow on its own. Sarah grabbed it with her crystal hands, and suddenly ancient symbols became visible on the paper. This isn't just a recipe, she gasped. It's an activation code. Your grandmother was part of an ancient Earth defense system. The Harvester Commander actually took a step back. The Grandmother Protocol. That's just a legend. Oh, it's very real, came a voice. John's own grandmother walked through the door, wearing her usual cooking apron, which was now glowing with symbols matching the recipe card. Why do you think grandmothers always want to feed everyone? We're maintaining Earth's emotional energy grid. She took the floating turkey in her hands, and suddenly her eyes glowed with the same golden light as the food. Sarah, dear, your research wasn't just about studying Earth's emotions. You were meant to find us, to help us activate the planetary defense system before the harvesters arrived. The sky was now almost completely dark with harvester ships, their red beams getting closer. But the network of golden light was growing stronger. Cats, grandmothers, and Thanksgiving dinners all connecting in a vast web of pure emotional energy. Sarah's crystal form began to resonate with the golden light. There's just one problem, she said. To activate the full defense system, we need one final ingredient. According to these symbols, she looked up at John, her blue lights pulsing with worry. We need the single most powerful source of emotional energy on Earth. "And what's that?" John asked. Before Sarah could answer, Mr. Whiskers stood up tall, his green eyes blazing. "Isn't it obvious? We need a group hug." A group hug. That's Earth's ultimate defense weapon. The Harvester Commander's red core flickered with disbelief. "Think about it," Mr. Whiskers explained, his tail swishing knowingly. "What combines more pure emotional energy than multiple beings choosing to embrace each other? Love, trust, comfort, protection. All in one action." John's grandmother nodded, her apron symbols glowing brighter. And on Thanksgiving, when hearts are already full of gratitude, the emotional energy would be exponentially amplified. Sarah's crystal form chimed with excitement. The scene that followed was unlike anything in Earth's history. As the harvester ships prepared to fire, several things happened at once. First, every grandmother in the neighborhood held up their glowing recipe cards. The ancient symbols floated off the papers, forming a golden dome over the area. Each recipe's secret family memories became visible as shimmering scenes in the air, decades of love, laughter, and shared meals. Then, all the cats began purring in perfect harmony. The sound created visible waves of green energy that spiraled upward, weaving through the golden dome. Mr. Whiskers explained between purrs, "Every cat's purr has been storing emotional energy since ancient Egypt. We're the world's fuzzy batteries." Sarah's modified turkey suddenly shot into the air, spinning faster and faster. The blue energy from her crystal form merged with the turkey's golden glow, creating a pulsing beacon that attracted every piece of Thanksgiving food within a mile radius. Countless dishes began floating out of houses, each one glowing with its family's unique emotional signature. Mrs. Chen's dumplings trailed ribbons of jade light. The Garcia family's tamales sparked with crimson energy. The Patel's curry swirled with violet waves. The Andersons' green bean casserole, which no one ever ate, surprisingly radiated rainbow colors. Every culture, every family tradition, Sarah observed in awe. They're all different forms of the same love energy. The Harvester Commander watched in confusion as its ship's red beams hit the golden dome but couldn't penetrate it. "But we have the most advanced energy-draining technology in the galaxy." "That's your problem," John's grandmother said, stirring her floating mashed potatoes with a glowing spoon. "You're trying to take energy by force. Earth's emotional energy can only be given freely, through sharing, caring, and groovy time," Mr. Whiskers announced. What happened next defied physics, biology, and several other sciences. Everyone in John's house, humans, cats, crystal aliens, and even the reluctant Harvester Commander, joined in one big hug. The moment they connected, a shockwave of pure emotional energy exploded outward. The wave kept growing, picking up more energy as it spread. Every family hugging at their Thanksgiving dinner added to it. Every purring cat amplified it. Every grandmother's recipe enhanced it. Every shared meal strengthened it. Even people eating alone but thinking of loved ones contributed. Sarah's instruments overloaded as they tried to measure the power. It's creating some kind of a transformation matrix," the Harvester Commander finished, its red core now swirling with multiple colors. I can feel again. Real emotions, not just stolen ones." The other harvester ships began to change, their harsh red light softening into rainbow hues. The crystal beings inside were experiencing genuine emotions for the first time in millennia. "This is what I hoped to discover," Sarah said joyfully, her crystal form now permanently tinged with gold. "Emotions aren't meant to be harvested. They're meant to be shared and grown." In the aftermath, several things changed permanently. The harvesters transformed their ships into floating gardens where different species could share meals together. Cats officially revealed their role as Earth's guardians, though they still expected regular treats. Grandmothers were finally recognized as the powerful beings they'd always been. Sarah stayed on Earth as an official cultural exchange officer. Earth was declared a protected emotional energy sanctuary. 1 year later, John's Thanksgiving dinner had a few more guests than usual. Sarah, now glowing a permanent mix of blue and gold. Mr. Whiskers, wearing his official FGA badge. Several reformed harvesters, grandmothers from all over the world, cats. So many cats. As they all sat down to eat, Sarah raised her glass in a toast. To the most powerful force in the universe, a shared meal with loved ones. Mr. Whiskers added, "And don't forget the turkey. That turkey saved Earth." The turkey, still slightly glowing, just wobbled happily on its plate. After all, it's not every day a Thanksgiving dinner saves the galaxy.